Sam was very disappointed one night when he was out for a walk and happened to come across a restaurant and was stunned to see his girlfriend Judy in there talking to another man. He thought of movies with scenes like this and wondered, was it something innocent, meeting like a platonic relationship and meeting up about work? But his hopes were dashed when she moved towards the man and kissed him on his lips. They weren't in each other's houses yet, not even up towards the door. Sam knew what he would do. He had done it before and got away with it, so there was nothing from stopping him from doing it now. The next day he met her, he made a date for her that night in a local bar. He was talking to her like there was nothing happened, like she was some honest person who would never cheat. But of course he knew himself the opposite was the truth. They were speaking in the bar, and to any outsider, they would have thought they were both enjoying each other's company. Sam was in an upbeat mood, but little did Judy know it wasn't because of her being in her company. It was because of what he had planned to do with her. They both walked home, and it was getting dusk. Sam thought Judy had money because her house was huge, but money wasn't important to him, and anyway, he wasn't even in the house. They weren't even next to each other's door, just back a few yards, as if they were hiding some secret affair. But important to him was truth, honesty, and loyalty more than any money. That was the most important thing Sam could have in any relationship. He kissed her goodnight and walked on. 10 minutes later, he walked past her house and took out his very clever contraption he hid in a bush just down from her house. It was a gasoline can he would throw in her window and torch the house, and when it was ablaze, he would make sure it would go up fast, because beforehand he would have doused the walls as much as he could with gasoline. He wasn't familiar with this neighbourhood and wouldn't even set foot in it only for Judy. He would have loved to have stood there watching the fire, but he knew he had to wait till the fire engine got there and join a crowd of onlookers and act like a shocked member of the public. 10 minutes later, the crowd gathered and the fire engine, but he froze in shock when he saw Judy without a scratch speaking to a man. He then heard a person next to him say to another person, "That must have been a gang hit. That is the house of the biggest gang boss in town. There will be a war break out over this." Sam had just wondered, could it be that Judy was just pretending it was her house to impress him? He found out very soon she lived down the road in a very small house, and realised that sooner or later he will have the town, if not state's biggest gang, after him for the arson attack. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. Lee was looking forward to go to a new club tonight. It played his favourite music, drum and bass, and he was really looking forward to letting go after a hard week's work. He used to look at dancing to drum and bass as a workout, especially when he stopped taking drugs a year ago. When he got to the club, he was dancing with his friends and really enjoying the thump of the drum and bass in the club. There was a guy outside their group who was dared by his friends to spike Lee's drink. He dropped a tablet with 2022 written on it. His friends told him that it wasn't ecstasy, but a new type of hallucinogenic drug. He had a choice of magic mushrooms, or a tablet with a star on it, or 2022. But since it was the 1st of January 2022, he decided to spike his drink with that pill. After a while, Lee was coming up on the trip, and he felt great. His friends didn't even realize until after an hour it was obvious he was on a very, very bad trip. Suddenly the club became like a dark woods, and his friends were replaced with demons. This was all in Lee's head, of course, but there was no point in his friends saying that. When he was outside the club instead of it being night, it was like he was in the middle of all colours, floating around, spinning around. He couldn't make sense of it, but it was terrifying him. He was inconsolable. No matter how much his friends tried to talk him down from the trip, they couldn't. They expected the next day he would have a very bad come down, but the real nightmare came when they realised he didn't come out of the trip. A whole week later, it was then he was put into a psych ward for his own safety. When the guy who spiked Lee's drink heard about what happened, he couldn't believe that he was still tripping. And he couldn't believe it that it was true. Whoever took that pill would be on a trip for all of 2022. And to make it worse, Lee was on a very, very bad trip. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. I asked my love to take a walk, just a little walk, down beside where the waters flow, down by the banks of the Ohio. He sang it so softly, the melody barely seemed to leave his lips. His voice was beautiful, hauntingly so. He held her hand as they lay next to the stream, and he sang for her, and only say that you'll be mine, in no other's arms intertwine. So soft his voice was, almost as though he was whispering. Well, he needn't worry that anyone else would hear him sing. The song was, after all, for her, so he didn't need to belt out the tune. He turned and looked at her. He was overcome with a rush of warmth people call love. With his free hand he gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. She had a faint smile on her face. It was almost a neutral look, and he continued to sing, down beside where the waters flow, down by the banks of the Ohio. He got up, leaving her to lie, and listened to the melodic rush of the stream, the bright hot sun gleaming down on God's good earth, the green grass beneath their picnic blanket rustling gently in the breeze. It was scenic, a simple, delicate daisy, just one. He had no need for a bunch. He walked with it gently. He had always been a gentle person. It reflected in his singing, with the way it was so quiet. If you asked anyone about him, they'd tell you he'd never hurt a fly. They say love is like a flower. You must nurture it and let it grow. She was his flower, his love, his delicate little daisy. They also say you should not pick the flower and put it in a vase for display, as it will soon wither and die. Rather let the flower be, and let it be beautiful in the wilderness. That is what he intended for her. He would never pluck her and let the world see her beauty. She was his flower, and he wanted to grow and nurture her. He arrived back at the stream. A bird far off in the distance let out a shriek. Something must have frightened it. He hadn't wandered far from the stream, and once back next to her, he lay down, daisy in hand, head on the grass, breathing in her scent deeply as he lay next to her. Just as the flower in his hand had a beautiful smell, so did she. He placed the flower in her hair, further beautifying her, a flower for his flower. He looked towards the bright sun and squinted. Such a lovely day. The stream continued to flow steadily. He gazed at her with nothing but love. Unfortunately, the love he had for her was unrequited. Well, it didn't matter. He loved her enough for the both of them. He threw the knife into the river as he got up and walked away, leaving her there in all her beauty, flower in hair, young and beautiful, pale skin due to loss of blood flow, but still beautiful. He sang the last bit of the song as he walked away. I held a knife against her breast, as into my arms she pressed. She cried, "Good God, don't you murder me. I'm not prepared for eternity." I wandered home 'tween 12 and 1. I cried, "My God, what have I done? I've killed the only girl I love, for she would not want to be my bride, and only say that you'll be mine, and in no other's arms intertwine. Down beside where the waters flow, down by the banks of the Ohio. If he couldn't have her in life, he'll have her in debt." It was a secluded piece of the river. He could come visit her any time he'd like. He'd never have to fear losing her to anyone. She was his forever. Thanks for watching the Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content.